Awesome, I am gonna need it. It is a little bit cool today. My name is Chuck. You're gonna be meeting Morgan, as well as some of the amazing birds we have the good fortune of working with. We come from a little bird of prey center called the Pacific Northwest Raptors. Nice mustache, buddy. We're based out of Duncan in Vancouver Island. We do all sorts of work with these incredible birds. We do a lot of educational work. We do a lot of advocacy work. We do a lot of conservation work with them. We're going to try and bundle some of that up here together for you for this flying demonstration. But the reason we do this education and conservation work is we've found the best way to make people care about these beautiful animals is by introducing them to them, letting you guys get to know them a bit more. My hope is that I'm going to send you home today with some more love in your heart for these beautiful animals, in the hopes that you're going to be willing to take a couple of extra steps in your day-to-day routine to help ensure that we continue to have habitat for these amazing animals for generations to come. But on top of this wildlife conservation and education work we do something called wildlife abatement. That's where we take our birds to places like mills, landfills, airports, a whole variety of industrial sites, and we use their predatory presence to scare off birds that probably shouldn't be in those locations. It's safer for people, but it's also safer for birds. Now, the way this works is really simple. We're taking advantage of a very simple self-preservation instinct. We're speaking the same language as wild birds. So in the context of something like an airport where there is huge amounts of land for birds to feed on, we show up and we start putting predatory birds in the sky so that when things like ducks fly over, they look down and they understand in no uncertain terms, holy smokes, there's more stuff that wants to eat me in this little patch of land than anywhere else in the GVRD. What do you say we blow through and grab lunch somewhere else? It is such a simple way of doing wildlife control. I bet it would work on all of you guys. If you were over in line waiting to get yourself a delicious garlic ice cream cone, if you haven't had one, check them out. I just had one. They are amazing. But if you were over there waiting in line to get yourself a snack and someone like me walked by and just released a cougar, you'd probably go find somewhere else to grab lunch. But I'm not here to plug our company too hard. I'm just getting ahead of some of the questions I usually get asked at the end of the demonstration. I'm here to introduce you guys to some birds. And before I can do that, I've got a couple of quick ground rules to cover to make sure that all of you feel happy, safe, and secure, but also so that our birds feel happy, safe, and secure. None of them came from the wild. They were all born in human care, which means they're incredibly used to being around people. So some of them are probably going to be getting pretty close to you. Some of them may fly right over top of you. If you're lucky, you may even get brushed by a feather. So if you are afraid of birds, this might not be the best place for you. But if you have decided that this is the day you are going to challenge your fears and conquer them, I salute you. This is a great place to do it. I will personally guarantee your safety. Don't worry. If you do need to leave, don't worry. I won't be upset. I totally understand. But I'm going to ask you guys to stay on your side of the rope line. The birds think of this as their hunting territory. They can be a little fussy over who they share it with. So, for the parents and guardians of small children, please hold on to your loved ones and stay on your side of the rope. Unless you've got a couple spares, we're always accepting donations. If you have any food that you're eating, I'd ask you to sort of eat it quickly or kind of hide it from our birds. You're going to see us feeding them by hand. If they see you eating something, you might get a lunch buddy. They are really lovely birds, but they've got terrible table manners, so please tuck that food away before we get going. And the last one is going to be, please don't touch the birds. If they are coming close to you, I understand it is incredibly tempting to try to reach out and high-five one for your Instagram profile. Please refrain. I will remind you right now that they all have razor-sharp talons on massively powerful feet. You do not want them high-fiving you back. Now, those are my rules. Are you guys ready to meet your first bird? All right, he is going to be joining us from over there behind the tent. He is an icon of North America. He is the son I never had. His name is Hercules. I love this guy to death. Hello, Herc. Let's give him a round of applause. He's not shy. He loves the attention. Now that you can see him nice and up close and personal, who knows what kind of bird Hercules is? He is a bald eagle. When we're talking bald eagle, we're not talking about bald eagle. We are talking about bald in the Old English word for white bald eagle. They are North America's fishing eagle. They are all over North America. We have a lot of them here in British Columbia because their favorite food is fish. Now, we do have a lot of bald eagles here in BC. Right now, we're home to roughly a third of the entire world's population of these incredible animals. And that's because we've got a lot of lakes, rivers, waterfront. Most of it is fish-bearing, so we can sustain a large number of these incredible birds. Now, he has his white head and tail now. That is a sign of sexual maturity. It kind of shows off to all the ladybirds that he has gotten into adulthood and he's maybe ready to start doing a little bit of eagle dating. Now, a bald eagle dating site might be something like Plenty of Fish, and let me tell you, Herc here, he's feeling plucky. Now, that white head and tail of his, the adult plumage, is also a lot like a resume. By having that plumage, he's saying, I've survived into adulthood, and that is a really big deal. Only about 30% of wild raptors survive into adulthood. And by the time they've gotten to that age, he's saying, hey, look at me. I have lived for quite a while. I've got some experience under my belt. I've got the skills to pay the bills, and I'm likely going to be a good provider for a young, growing family. Now, they are fisher birds, and if you're looking at him flying around, have a look at his feet. You're going to notice that he doesn't have feathers all the way down to the bottoms of them. And that's so that way when he drags those long talons through the water, he doesn't have feathers to get waterlogged. Because when you're a bird who fishes, every ounce you weigh is incredibly important to you. It means he's got to put that much more effort into getting himself out of the water instead of focusing on catching the biggest fish he can find. So Hercules here has some incredible adaptations to keep himself as light as possible. For starters, he's covered in feathers, which are notoriously light. If you could see a cross-section of his bones, you'd see that his bones are filled with tiny little pockets of air that keep his feathers nice and light and rigid at the same time. And then finally, if you could see inside of him, you would see that Hercules here has about half the blood volume you'd expect a bird this size to have. So now that we're all on the same page and you know the tricks and tools that a bald eagle uses to keep itself nice and light, I want to hear you guys shout out some guesses. How much do you think Hercules here weighs? 7.5 pounds, 103 pounds, thank you. 40 pounds, I am feeling strong today, but I would not be catching him on my outstretched left arm if he weighed 103 pounds. 5 pounds, 7. These are all really good guesses. I think one or two of you may have seen the last demonstration. When we weighed him this morning, Hercules here only weighed 7.5 pounds. They are surprisingly light. As a rule of thumb, generally speaking, a bald eagle can catch and lift a fish about half of its weight up and out of the water without struggling too hard. Now, we do have a lot of bald eagles here in BC, like I was saying, but that is something we should be incredibly grateful for because it hasn't always been the case. Back in the 50s and 60s, we were using a pesticide called DDT. Now, it wasn't killing birds like Hercules here outright, but what it was doing is it was bioaccumulating up the food chain and causing a calcium deficiency in top predators. So for large mammalian predators, this wasn't too nefarious. But for large birds of prey, what this meant is that calcium deficiency was causing them to lay eggs with incredibly thin shells. So birds like Herc here would go home to roost on their eggs to keep them warm, and unfortunately they were crushing most of their own eggs under their weight. So for about 30 years, we didn't have a lot of bald eagles successfully hatching out. It wasn't until the 70s and 80s, I'm not calling you to my glove, I'm calling Herc to my glove. In the 70s and 80s, we realized what we were doing to these beautiful animals, and we banned the use of DDT in agriculture. And ever since, their numbers have been making a remarkable comeback. I'm happy to say they are no longer on the endangered species list. They are doing very, very well. And that stands largely in testament to their ability to rely on a broad range of prey. Now, as we're starting to tuck Hercules here away, I'm going to start pointing out some of the features that make a raptor a raptor. While you're seeing him flying around, he is a generalist hunter. He has a fairly average build for a raptor. He's just big. He's made to hunt broad variety of prey from a variety of ecosystems. Now there's three main features that distinguish a raptor from just a bird of prey. And when you hear the word raptor, I want you to think of the word sharp. All raptors have three main features. They have sharp eyesight for seeing in great distances in great detail. They've got sharp downward curved beaks made for ripping and tearing into flesh. But most importantly, they have massive talons on incredibly powerful feet, made for crushing and piercing their prey. Let's give Herc a big round of applause as he makes his way off the side of the field. He is an absolute delight to work with. I haven't gotten to see him too much this summer, and I am so happy to see him now.